guest today is Tim Maille. Now, Tim has an amazing story to tell us, and I do not want to give too much away in this intro. Tim is a paranormal investigator. He's been on TV, radio, and in movies acting in a few of the Los Bastards films made with his really good friend, Scott Tepperman. He's had his own podcast. He's a staple at Paracons throughout the U.S. and even Canada. He has so many good friends, especially like last week's guest Scotty Rourke and Keith Age, who's next week's guest. Sorry, shameless plug. But seriously, there are so many others, it would take 10 minutes or so just to name them. He's one of the founders of Fox City Paranormal, which was started back in 2008. He's an author, having written 2 books, both of which we're going to talk about tonight. All Roads Lead to the Paranormal and The Endless Road, which picks right up where the other left off. Tim is also the founder of Portographs for Pooches. Hoping I'm saying that right. This charitable organization has raised thousands of dollars for shelters across the United States. He will talk to us about his amazing dog, which he also got from a shelter, Murray, and how this dog has changed his life. He will talk about his other dogs he has, and he will talk about his cat Bo as well. Now, there are some people you get a really good vibe being around. Our guest tonight, Tim Maille, is one of them, and we are honored to have him on our show this evening. Well, Tim, thank you for being on our show tonight. I truly got to say, I thank you for your patience, because to our listeners that have listened, and actually somebody even emailed me this morning and said, what the hell happened to the show last week? I was looking forward to watching him, and we're sitting there, we're waiting and waiting and waiting and nothing. Well, I'm glad you hung around. I'm glad you came back with us because I'm hoping to have a really, really good show today. And yeah, I'm sorry about the shameless plug with Keith, but
No,
Keith
that's
is
okay.
coming on next. One of the things that somebody said to me the other day, do you notice a pattern going on of the guests that are coming on one after another? You know, we had Scotty last week, we have you this week, we have Keith, and we're trying to get the Los Bastard Scott Tepperman on the show too, but he's been complaining about his schedule lately. So we shall see. I got Jim O'Reilly trying to push him now. I was trying to get both of them on the show. I thought it'd be a good show, but Jim doesn't really want to do stuff anymore, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I think
So
he's taking some time off. First of all, thank you for that intro. You make me sound so important. You don't realize how much you have your hands in until somebody starts listing everything. That's why I don't seem to have enough hours in the day, I think.
well, I don't know. You know, you are important. Okay, let me start that way. And to a lot of people I was telling today, we'll go with your personal story, which is important in itself. But the photograph of pooches and the things that you're doing there, anyone that loves pets. Now, in this room, there's 2 dogs hiding someplace here, and there's a cat who every once in a while will show itself behind me here. I mean, I'm a pet lover, and I love what you're doing as far as helping different shelters and stuff. And we're going to go into that, but I want you to realize how important you really are. You know, you're an author, actor. I mean, you're out there. You're in demand, as they say.
Some would say I'm a really bad actor, but
No,
I've had a chance to be in a few movies, and I can cross that off the bucket list, and it's been fun. But there's no Academy Awards coming my way.
well, you know, hey, life doesn't give us Academy Awards, okay? But he'll remember us up there, I'm hoping. Now, I want to take us back. We're going to go basically talking about the books here, so I'm not going to reference a specific book. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little about your childhood. You know, I know you've had a stressful time, to say the least. I know a rough time growing up. Tell us a little about that, and I'm going to be quiet and let you talk for a bit.
Childhood was okay. Yeah, I don't remember everything. I don't remember anything ever being bad when I was a little boy. And one day when I think I was 8 years old. I can't remember the specific day that my parents sat me down and told me that my dad was moving out. But my parents separated when I was either 7 or 8. I would go see my dad every other weekend. We had that bond. Love my dad. Still love my dad to this day. I didn't get enough time with him, but um, that next spring, when I was 8 years old, almost 9, my dad worked for the elementary school that I went to, and I would see him from time to time at school. And when he had to work late, he would bring me to the school, and I'd play basketball in the gym while he cleaned, and it was always a good time when I was around him. April 18th was a bad day, but April 16th was his birthday, and my mom had taken me over to visit with him. It was his 28th birthday. I'm sorry, 29th birthday. Wait, 28th. It was his 28th birthday, and my mom took me over there to visit with him, and I think I was there for a couple hours, and just following my dad around, and really just enjoying being with him and playing in the backyard. And when it was time to leave, we got into the car, and we got down the street, and I looked at my mom in a panic, and I said, I never said happy birthday. And my mom looked at me, and she said, you can tell him the next time you see him. April 18th, I saw him at the end of the hallway at my school before classes started, and I couldn't go talk to him. 2:45 that afternoon, my principal knocked on the door and asked me to follow him to the office. And I wasn't a bad kid, but I talked a lot. And if you get to know me in life, I'm still that way. I'm very quiet if I don't know you. It takes me a long time to trust people. For a long time, I didn't trust people. I've opened up to quite a few people now, and being out and doing all these things that you listed in the beginning of the show kind of requires that. So I've come out of my shell a little bit, but I wasn't a bad kid, but I talked a lot. So I didn't get in trouble per se, but they were always telling me to calm down, and so when the principal knocked on the door and asked for me, I didn't know what was going on. I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't know what I did wrong. He asked me to come back to the office, and we just kind of sat there. And it was only a few minutes, but it felt forever. And at one point, my principal looked at me and asked if my mom was picking me up from school. And my parents being separated, we had moved to a different town. So she was driving me to school and picking me up, and I'm sure they knew that. I told him she's probably here already, and he said, well, good, I'll walk you out to the car. And then my anxiety went through the roof because I didn't have any idea what I had done wrong. Got out to the car, and it was actually an orange truck. I can't remember what kind of truck it was, but it was an orange truck. And he helped me into the vehicle, and went around to the side, and my mom rolled down the window, and he said the words that changed my life forever. He looked at my mom and he said, Ronnie's been in a horrible accident. My dad was crossing the street, putting out school cones, and a construction vehicle went through the school zone at 35 miles an hour and hit him. So we
How
hurried.
old were you at the time?
I was 8. I was about a month away from my 9th birthday.
Okay.
And we hurried to a neighboring town where the hospital was. And my mom dropped me off at her sister's house and went to the hospital to see how he was doing. She came home she came to pick me up a few hours later. And I just remember her telling me that he was in a coma. And at 8, almost 9, you don't know what that means. That's my dad. That's my hero. He's indestructible, and he's going to be okay. That's all I kept thinking. He wasn't, and he was in a coma for 6.5 years. Eventually would pass from those injuries, just being in a coma and having all of his machines hooked up to him. He ended up with some ulcers that were to the point where his quality of life obviously was not good. I mean, medicine wasn't as advanced as it is now. I'm not sure there's anything they could do for him now, but we went to the hospital November 9th. I went with my uncle of 1990 and got to the hospital, and and went in, and the doctors quite bluntly said we could keep him alive forever, but there's no quality of life here. He's never going to get any better. And at that point, 15 years old, I was a part of the decision. I was in the room, the decision to let my dad go. Um, and it's you mentioned Scotty earlier. Scotty's been one of the people that's helped me heal with this. Because in that moment, I went home. I didn't stay there. I should have stayed there, held his hand. But I don't think I understand. I don't think I understood the gravity of the situation at the time, and went home. And I met Scotty. Geez, I want to say 2012, early 2012, and I asked him to come outside with me at an event, and I instantly started crying. I didn't even get the question out. My Scotty looked at me and he said, "Your dad says you were 15. Stop beating yourself up." Scotty's an incredible medium. He really is a great guy. Has helped us on countless investigations, and a good person to have as a friend. And in that moment, he told me what I needed to hear from my dad, because I had carried that around for years. Um, and my dad now, we're at the point now where I have a great relationship with my father through my friends that are mediums, because he still sends me messages, comes through, and has even helped on some cases that we've been on. So I got cheated out of a lot of time with him. And I think about how life would be very different if that day had not happened. Um, but at the end of the day, I think also that, some things happened in my life later on that kind of shows that my dad was pushing for me to do the paranormal work that I do. He was the first spirit that I ever encountered at the age of 31. And yeah, so I mean, childhood was, you try to be as normal as you can, but there's no other kids in school going through what you're going through. And school's awkward anyway. So, yeah, I guess, we made the best of what we had.
It's amazing. You talk about Scotty, and Scotty was on a week or two ago, but we were good friends with we phrased that. Sounds like in the past. We are good friends with Scotty. In fact, Jen has taken classes with Scotty. Hang out at Paracons. In fact, the last one where I saw you at, we had spent most of the weekend with Scotty at Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
And when Jen's brother had passed, I came onto Facebook. Now, he had died suddenly, just had a heart attack. He was like 38 years old, just had a heart attack in a driveway. Okay, I mean, basically, some neighbor found him laying on the horn. And I came onto Facebook and I said, "Hey, Scotty." And the first words he said to me was, "Yeah, he's wondering what he's doing there too. He has absolutely no idea." I was like, and I tried to play dumb. I was like, "What?" He goes, "Jen's brother." I mean, he's an amazing psychic medium. I mean, he just is incredible. And I'm sure many times he's given you messages from your dad that has passed.
Yeah.
It's amazing because we think life ends when they end. See, the cat's going nuts here. Many people think that life ends when we're done, but they're still around watching over us every single day. Now, when you moved into your house, you found your house was kind of special.
Yeah. Well, I'd mentioned all the stuff with my dad. And when I moved in at 31 years old, we had never talked about the paranormal. In fact, my dad's side of the family is very religious. And it just wasn't something that we spoke about. So at 31 years old, I moved into this house, and I almost instantly I had footsteps um, going from bedroom to bedroom upstairs, bangs on the wall, voices in my closet. I had never dealt with anything like that. And when I moved into the house, I was going through a lot of personal issues too. A lot of things from a relationship that was supposed to end up in that home that didn't. I don't want to give too much of that I don't want to give too much time to that because that person doesn't matter. Um, but at the moment, I kind of felt like life was falling apart, and so I had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and this is 2006, where I really wasn't on social media. I I kind of kept to myself, so there weren't a whole lot of people that knew that I was going through all of this. But when I moved into the home, I knew I wanted a dog, and I started looking online a couple weeks into living in the home, and found a pit bull lab mix that had been beaten and rescued from the home. And they talked about how it was a man that had beaten him, and I contacted the shelter. They at first they didn't want me to come and see him because it was a man and he didn't trust men. I remember making the lady laugh and saying, "I'm not a normal man." And eventually I had bothered them so much that they allowed me to come and visit. So when I got there, they let Murray out of the kennel, and he went the wrong way. And if anybody was lucky enough to meet Murray, that was kind of his thing. He never did anything right the first time. But they turned him around, and I sat on my knee and I called for him. And this little puppy that shouldn't want anything to do with me ran to me and jumped in my arms. And that was the start of a beautiful story. It took a long time for the adoption to get approved, and I think about a week and a half later, I actually brought him home, and brought Murray home. And the first thing that happened is he started following everything that I was hearing. And for the first time in about a month, I didn't feel insane because there was another living being that was acknowledging the things that were happening in the house, and the activity kept going. It didn't stop once Murray was there, and he actually seemed to interact with it. And there was a time I was trying to sleep, and it looked like he was playing ball with something in my bedroom. Um, he didn't really seem like he was afraid of it at first. And I remember a lot of my family saying, "This is probably your dad, and he's there trying to, take care of you and watch over you." And it was the first time any of them really acknowledged the fact that there could be a spirit in the house. And in the meantime, I tried to find other teams in my area. I'd stumbled across Ghost Hunters. By dumb luck, I was watching wrestling on the Sci-Fi Channel, and a commercial came on, and I was blown away that people did this. Like, I was so naive to all of this. And I remember setting the DVR and watching the first couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters and thinking, I wonder if there are people that do this and would come into my home. And they started mentioning Taps family teams on the show. So I did a quick Google search and found a few teams in Wisconsin, and tried to contact them and explain what was happening in my home. And none of them got back to me, which is okay, because I think if they would have, I would have taken what they said and just been done with it. But this forced me to educate myself and learn as much as I could about what I'm doing now. And at first, it was never a question of starting a team. It was, I need to figure this out because I have a 30-year mortgage. So that was basically, the start of me learning more about, spirits and the paranormal, and still struggling with depression. And in early 2007, it was a night that changed my life. I don't remember the night specifically, which is, I think, my brain
locking it off.
Yeah, protecting myself.
Mhm.
Because I think I would dwell on that constantly when that time came. I know it was early 2007, and I just didn't think there was a way to get through this, a way to move on. And I remember sitting in my bathroom with the largest knife I had, and I went through friends and family one by one, and I came up with reasons why it would be better if I wasn't here. And I'm sitting in there sobbing, and not really in a good frame of mind. What people don't understand about people that are suicidal is that your brain takes over, and it's a very dark place. It's not your normal self, and there's no rational thought, none.
Well, let
That's a
me tell you, just to interrupt you a second, I've been there, which you
yeah,
probably don't know. about me. I've been there. Didn't have the knife, but I had a bottle of pills. So I know, and I just want to say this before we go any further, because I'll forget to say it if we don't. If somebody's contemplating suicide or something when they're hearing this and stuff, seek help now.
Yeah.
I'm even told if you dial 988 on your phone, you're able to get help immediately, or text 741-741, and somebody will contact you. Don't go without help, because what you're about to hear Tim say now is true. When he just made that statement, your mind takes control. So take it back from there.
I'm sitting in the room, in the bathroom, and I feel something on my arm, and I look down, and it's Murray. He's rested his chin on my arm, and I looked down, and I saw those beautiful brown eyes, and I put the knife in the sink, and I crumpled to the floor, and I held him, and I just kept telling myself, "You can't do this to him. If something happens to you, what happens to him?" And in that moment, he was no longer a dog. It was not dog and owner from that point. It was father and son. And I lived every single day of my life trying to find a way to thank him. We were inseparable, and every day I would pick up his ear and I would whisper thank you into his ear,
Do
and
you
he
think
just
that dogs, I mean, you talked about when you went to the shelter and the dog came running right to you. I honestly believe dogs have this, animals, I don't even want to say dogs, because I know it's the same way with cats. They have this sense that they know all about you just by looking at you and knowing it's safe or if it's not safe.
I knew from the beginning that he trusted me, and I've heard people say, from that point, that was no accident that you ended up with Murray. A lot of people attribute that to my dad, and I would love for that to be the case. Um, but he and I were like a team. I mean, it just from that point forward, and it was probably 2012 when I met Scotty that things really took off for me in the paranormal field because we had that 1 in a million case. It ended up being on Paranormal Witness. I got a little bit of attention from it. Started getting invited to conventions around the country, and it was at that point I decided to share my story. And I thought this needs to be told. They give you a table at these events, and I didn't have anything in the beginning, and that was okay. um, but I also thought that this was an opportunity to make a difference, and I wanted to create a legacy for Murray. I wanted to find a way to show him how much he meant to me, and at the same time help other shelter animals. So we founded Potographs for Pooches on April 18th, 2013. It's 29 years to the day after my dad got hit by a construction vehicle. I wanted to make that day a happy day again. And in the beginning, we really didn't have any expectations. We had pictures of Murray and I, and he would photograph them. And I think I have it here. I do. I still have his stamp. We had a stamp made of his paw, and every picture of he and I would stamp his paw on this, and that's his photograph. And then I would personalize them at events. And the first event we did, we raised $10, and it was humbling. But eventually, people started to come around to the idea, and there were some events that got behind it. Uh, Little Traverse Bay Parafest in Petoskey, Michigan is the first one that really sticks out to me. John and Jackie Cassidy really got behind the event, and thus so did the people that went to the event. And I think we raised a couple $100 at an event there, and there was a time when I wanted to do a charity event for the school that my dad used to work at, and I had contacted them a few times. I had my representatives at the time contact them and try to set up a meeting where we could do an event and we could charge money. for the event, and all the money would go to this school. And all I ever really wanted was for them to acknowledge that my dad existed, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't even meet with me. They wouldn't talk to me. And
You think they were trying to sweep it under the rug, or
eventually, my uncle did tell me that there was some dispute um, after my dad got hit, whether or not he was on the clock or not. They were trying to get out of paying for anything. They were trying to get out of any wrongdoing. So the last email I sent them was I pretty much told them what I thought of them, and I told them I also didn't want any of their money. Their money was not important to me, and the fact that they couldn't acknowledge that my dad existed was really hurtful. I never heard back from them on that either. So the little town of Hilbert. I'm sorry for the language, but the little town of Hilbert can kiss my ass. Um, I will never have a good word to say about that little town the rest of the time that I'm alive. John Cassidy got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I know you're disappointed about this, but what if we did a Potographs exclusive event in Pawtucket, Michigan?" And at first, I thought the idea was absurd because I didn't understand how me and John would be able to sell enough tickets to make a difference. I was wrong, though. We sold 56 tickets to an event, almost oversold the place. Everybody was pretty cramped. We did a dinner, a couple lectures, and then an investigation. And we raised about $750, I think, that first event. Um, that 750 turned into events where we would break 1,000. And then we had an event where we raised 5,000 in Houghton Lake, Michigan. And then the numbers just kept going up and up and up. And this past September, we went over $100,000 total raised for
wow?
shelters around the country. So that legacy that I wanted to create for Murray, it's set. I love the fact that people recognize me as Murray's dad to this day. Um, I have no problem playing second fiddle to him, and it will always be his story, and I'm just the human that gets to tell it. That's the best way I want to say it. Unfortunately, Murray passed away in 2019. Left a big hole in my life, but I also made him promise me that he would let me know he was okay. I told him you got to go find Grandpa and let me know you're all right. Otherwise, I'm coming to look for you. And that sounds exactly how I meant it to sound. I was ready to leave this earth because the thought of him being alone and the thought of me being alone was devastating. And I woke up that next morning to messages from 5 different mediums. I used to say 4 until I looked back at my old lectures and I found out it was actually 5. um, I woke up from messages from 5 mediums, and every message started the same. Every message started with Murray needs you to know that he's okay.
There you
It's
go.
very important. And he kept his end of the deal. So here I am. We push forward. It's not just me. There's everybody that's ever attended an event, everybody that's helped me put together an event. Todd Arnold, who works with me on Fox Cities Paranormal Team, is a fantastic human being. Michelle Nason does incredible work for Potographs with all the baskets that she raffles off and the auction items that she finds. Um, it's a group effort. It's never just me, but the great thing about Potographs events is that everybody's there for him. Everybody's there for Murray. We all have one goal. We all have one thing in mind, and that's to raise as much money as we can for the animals. So that's a really long answer. That's it.
Hey, it's helped my voice tremendously. I remember meeting you down. It was a Mid South event that Keith did run, who's on 2 days from now. So you keep plugging poor Keith. But you were sitting there. You had a booth. Next to you was Scott, who, if you remember, forgot his banner
Mhm.
that day. So we had some like sheet or something up or some piece of paper that said, "I forgot my banner, Scott Tepperman." Or something. And then next to him was Rob Demarest. I
Yes.
think was sitting on the opposite side. So yeah, and I unfortunately didn't see you, and we went to a lot of them, but I didn't see you when Murray was there. And I'm sorry I didn't get to one of those events where Murray traveled with you.
He only traveled to Michigan with me. It was and people ask me now, are you going to take Ray to events? It's just incredibly difficult, mostly because Potographs has gotten so big. You know, I have to help run an event. I can't be worrying about where Ray
Where my
is.
dog is.
Yeah. So my mom is like the sweetest lady in the world, and she watches my girls when I'm out of town, and she always says she wishes she could be at events, but um, she's helping out Potographs just by taking that off my mind. So yeah, I mean, the folks that Murray got to meet, I think those people probably remember that pretty well. But yeah, I remember Mid South. It was that was pretty much still in the infancy. I mean, we were doing it for 4 years at that point, 5 years, I think. 5 years, yeah. Um, but it came up in my memories the other day that while Murray was alive, we raised $27,000.
There you go.
So in the last 3 years in Potographs, we had raised $73,000. So Potographs really took off, unfortunately, after Murray was gone.
That's all
Uh,
right. It cemented his legacy.
yeah, I mean his legacy's set, and I'm proud of that fact. I just wish he would have been around to enjoy some of it, and you know, be a part of it. I know he's there. I know he's there in spirit. I know he's constantly around, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But
See, it's important because my aunt is one of those people. She gets a new dog when one passes away, but she will only, and I say only, get a pup from an older dog, I should say, from a shelter. That's it. She will not go buy a new dog from a puppy mill or something like that. She only gets a dog to give that dog the last 2 or 3 years of a good life. And a lot of people out there that are listening, I mean, you're thinking of getting a dog. Um, you don't get any idea of the satisfaction and the love those dogs still have in them
yep,
that they want to share with you. And I mean, a lot of people, oh, no, we don't want an old dog. We want a puppy. We want a younger dog. Those poor dogs sit in shelter. They deserve to have a really good life.
yeah, we rescued Sasha back in 2014. Black Lab. She was 12. She was dumped at the shelter. We had her for a year, and she was a wonderful dog. Love her dearly. Um, Actually, did an event in Houghton Lake, Michigan, where I took a dog home. They brought a Shar-Pei pit mix named Molly, and at the end of the weekend, the lady running the shelter said, "You know, you can take her home," and gave her 3 incredible years. Um, just recently, I mean, not recently. I mean, Ray's going to be 3 years old here in a few days. Um, But a few days after Murray passed, the shelter that I work with in Wisconsin, they got a hold of me and they said, I know it's probably early and you might not be thinking of this, but we have some pit lab puppies coming up from Alabama. If you're interested, you can pick one. And I didn't really think that I was ready yet. I was just happy that it was going to be Molly and I. But then the opportunity to have a puppy and kind of raise like I did Murray. And it was still coming from a shelter, so I felt good about that. Um, Fun story on that is I was gonna grab a boy, and I was gonna name him Ray because those are the last 3 letters of Murray's name. Um, and I got a message from my friend April Roan, and she said Murray came through to me, and he thinks it's fantastic. You're gonna get a puppy. He also wants me to tell you that he can be the only boy. So
Told you.
I changed my course and I looked at the females, and there was one with the exact markings of Murray when he was a puppy. And I thought that's my new Ray. And she's Ray, but she's RAE. And it was meant to be. You know, she's turning out to be a spitting image of him. She looks exactly like him at the same age, which is a little eerie at times. But yeah, she's a real good girl, and I'm so blessed that I was able to do that and share this life and all that we're doing with her too. She got to go to an event here in Wisconsin a little over a year ago, and I think it's the only time she's ever behaved. Uh, but she was very good. But we didn't bring her this year. It was just a little too much for her. Like I said, the events get bigger and bigger, which is a good problem to have.
When did you get Bo?
I got Bo right after my divorce. I got divorced like early 2018, and it was just Murray and I at that point. I was with somebody for 6 years, and then got divorced, and they took the other dog. So Murray started going through some separation anxiety. So I contacted the shelter and said, "Hey, I need a dog-friendly cat," because I didn't think I could handle two dogs at the time. So they suggested Bo and brought Bo home, and he was perfect. And he still is to this day. Bo doesn't get talked about a lot because he's a cat, um, but he was best buddies with Murray, and for that I'll always be grateful.
Does the cat rule the roost or the dogs?
I well, the cat thinks he's a dog.
So does mine, okay? Likes to hang out with the two shelties.
Yeah, yeah, he doesn't have any cat brothers or sisters, so he's adapted. When the dogs take a nap on the couch, he gets in between them and lays down. Um, yeah, they get along really well. There's no issues there, so that's a blessing. But yeah, Bo's a good cat. The only thing with Bo is he loves to try to get out of the house, which would be okay if he came back, but he doesn't come back. So I gotta put him in the office here when I take the girls out. Otherwise, he tries to get out the door.
See, we're
But
lucky. Our cat doesn't want anything to do with the outside at all. She
yeah,
knows she's got a mate in here, and it's like I got food, water, beds. I'm happy. Okay, and even the dog's beds, because she sort of takes over the dog's beds as well. Now, with I want to backtrack just a little bit here. With your
sure.
house, did you were you ever able to find resolution to paranormal activity?
Yeah. I moved in here in 2006. I asked for Scotty's help on a case in 2012. So 5.5 years later, and we're sitting in my living room before leaving for the case. And Scotty looked at me and he said, "Your dad wants me to tell you something, but I'm not sure you want me to tell you in front of everybody." And I told him it was fine, that my team was my family. And basically looked at me and he said, "Your dad's upset you told him to leave." Um, Earlier, one night I had issues with Murray being afraid of what was in the house and he was shaking. And I remember looking in to my left, the walk-in closet, and just saying, "Dad, you're scaring the dog. You can go now." And Scotty told me that, and I lost it. There was a lot of ugly crying at that time, and just knowing that, I told my dad to leave, and since then I've told Scotty, the old man can hang around all he wants, and he does. I hear things from time to time. Doing what I do, I will also bring home a curious spirit from time to time. So it's not just dad here, but I've gotten used to it. I firmly believe that we fear what we don't understand. And once I started to better understand spirits and why they stick around and why they visit us, it was no longer scary. It was no longer anxiety inducing. And, obviously now, almost 15 years in the paranormal field later, I embrace it. I love it. It's kind of it's kind of what I've known for. Fox City's paranormal team has done an incredible job. Not just me, but the great folks that have been on that team, and we've been able to help dozens and dozens of families. So I'm really
So
proud.
let's talk about it. It was in 2008 that you started Fox Cities Paranormal.
Yes,
How did that come about?
I kind of dumb luck. I think I had started to educate myself just to kind of get myself comfortable in my house. I think I mentioned that earlier,
Hmm.
and about a year after that, we're talking like late 2007. I remember it because I'm sitting in the bathroom getting ready for work, and like, this voice like is in my head, and it's like, if there's other families out there that aren't getting the help or calls returned, there should be somebody out there that cares. And I brought it up to some people at work, kind of floated the idea. Uh, they were in, They eventually proved to me that they didn't want to really do what we do. And just by dumb luck, we added Todd Arnold to the team, and he stuck. So it's been Todd and I since the beginning. I remember the first conversation I had with my mom about starting a paranormal team, and she kind of looked at me like, "Yeah, sure, okay, yeah, good luck with that. This will be done in a month." But here
Enough
we
of
are.
bad the child is going through.
Yeah, it's here we are almost 15 years later, and now my mom is like bragging about all the things I've been able to do, and she brags about the books, she brags about the movies, she brags about the TV. Usually she's listening to the interviews that I do, but I don't see her tonight. But
Well, it's always recorded, so it's always going to be
yeah,
there. She
she's
can go
uh
back. Hi,
she's my
Mom.
biggest fan, and a lot of this doesn't happen without her support. So
Mhm.
um, so it happened that way. 2008, just kind of like you know let's see if we can make this happen. Again, no expectations. I didn't think in a million years I'd ever be on TV. And within 2 years of investigating, I'm doing a radio show on liveparanormal.com. And again, I'm looking around going, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Why am I, why am I on here? Um, but I also was very lucky when I got into this field that I met the right people and people that kept me grounded. I get to do a lot of great things, fun things, interesting things. Um, but I've always told Todd that if I ever change, I just need you to punch me in the nose. And and he's eager. He wants to, but it hasn't happened yet. But I met some fantastic people that kind of I don't want to say taught me the right way because I don't think there's a right way, but there's definitely a wrong way. So as long as you're not doing it the wrong way, I think people will respect what you're doing.
So let's talk about that because that's actually really interesting. And I also plan on talking, to some other people. I want to use Keith's name again coming up about it. Sorry, poor Keith. There is a right way, and well, there is not. You're right. There may not be a right way, but there's definitely a wrong way be doing this. Okay, I've been doing it 45 years, as I told you, so I know that there are people doing it the wrong ways. You have a really, like myself, a very interesting perspective on what at least part of the right way is. Explain that to people.
I think it all comes down to how you treat people and your intentions. And I'll use a for instance from this past weekend. We got a referral of a lady who believes she has a demon, and she's been kind of kicked to the curb by other teams because of the things that she says and the things that she believes. She's an older lady, and I took the time to call her and have a conversation with her. We talked for about a half hour. And during that conversation, I could tell by the sound of her voice and the crying that she was doing, she believes everything she's telling me. And nobody's ever taken the time to listen. I mean, really listen without judging. And we set up a meeting where we met her at her house. And I took Todd and Michelle, and we sat with her for 2 hours and just talked to her about her beliefs, about her deceased husband, about the things that they used to do that she thought was fun. And then you come to find out that her religious beliefs are basically along the lines of spirits don't exist. This can't be happening. So it has to be a demon because that's what her religion has taught her. A lot of people haven't taken the time to get to know her and understand that part of it. So by the time we left, uh, we asked her if we come in here and we come up with a different idea of what this could be, would you be willing to listen to us? And she was very willing to listen to us. And that comes down to trust. That comes down to compassion. That comes down to caring about people. I don't care how you get to the end of the book, as long as you write the book with compassion and you write the book with caring, and you really care about the people you're trying to help. Um, I talked about intention. You're going to get out of this field what you intend. If your intention is to go to events and have a good time and meet people and rub elbows, um, you can do that very easily. If your intention is to help people and do residential cases, that gets a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of pressure. I feel intense pressure every case that we do because you're really dealing with people's lives.
See, I
And
refer to it, it's our ministry. That's how, when people ask me, well, why do you do that? And I say it's my ministry to do that, to help people. I mean, we had, and quickly, because it's just story, but we had a similar thing with an elderly lady in Indianapolis who called us. And long story short, we went up there, really nice old woman. She was hearing this this low pitched sound. Well, heck, when I got there, there's a factory down the block, and that factory had. I mean, my whole I was a bass player for years. Okay, my whole insides were rumbling from that sound, and then
yeah,
she'd hear popping sounds. Well, she had an old television, and on the back of the picture tube,
yeah,
dust would pop. The best was she would hear ticking, clicking, ticking sounds inside the kitchen. No joke. This woman had 7 clocks in the kitchen. You walked in there and you were like, from the sound of this thing clicking over and over again. And but the same way, we sat with her, we listened to what she had to say, and you're right. The word is compassion, and I don't think too many groups have that compassion anymore.
I think a lot of people don't even want to deal with residential cases at this point. It's all about the next abandoned hospital or abandoned hotel, which don't get me wrong, those places are fantastic. If that's your thing and that's what you want to do, I'm not here to tell you not to. Um, but if you don't have a lot of experience with residential cases, a lot of our cases now are referrals from people that know who we are, and these people have gone through run one or two teams before us, before they find us. And one of the saddest things that this lady told us this weekend, she asked us how much this was going to cost, and I that tells me that the other teams have charged her, because she expected to have to pay. And I don't feel comfortable charging somebody to feel comfortable in their own home. I
No,
just,
there's never a charge.
it's
You-
uh, it's a, it's a field based on theory. You know,
exactly. I was going to
it,
say,
it,
how could you charge someone for something that you can't really prove or disprove?
I mean,
That's
at some point, I can't put a monetary value on that. And my reward has always been the text message saying, "Hey, my kids aren't afraid to sleep in their home.
mhm.
They slept in their room all night, no issues." That's my reward. And the other things I get to do. I mean, the paranormal witness episode that opened up so many doors for me. I've written 2 books. I've gotten a chance to speak around the country and into Canada. Um, so I mean, the field has given me a lot more than I've ever given it, and I say that all the time. I just want to be that advocate for the field. That people look at me and go, "Hey, he's a good egg."
Well, that's the thing, okay, and that's why you've gone as far as you've gone in the field, is because it's sincere. And I think anyone who talks to you, who knows you, I mean, even not knowing you, when I first 2 or 3 times I met you, actually, I remembered another time we met. Okay, and it's probably the first time you and I sat and talked, and it was in Spiceland, Indiana,
Oh yeah,
Paragon and Montgomery Steakhouse.
yep.
And I think that Jen and I, one night, were probably the only two visitors to the Paragon.
It was a sparsely attended event.
Yes, it was. And we were like the crowd when we showed up, the two of us. And I remember it was, I think Jim O'Rear was there.
Yep.
Scott was there. You were there, I think. Christopher
Rosalind
Booth,
Rosalind
Rachel.
was there. Joe was
Right.
there.
Yeah, Joe. Yes, I remember. Because I remember Scott talking about his movies. And Joe's like, I don't even want to hear this. Just stop. Go away. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
because he wasn't into that kind of movies and stuff. But yeah, that was a very funny evening. But that's when we got your book, and I had it's up here the last time. And we read your book, but I had read it so long ago that when I came back to doing the show again, I was like, "Hon, where's that book that we had of Tim?" And she like handed me like four books. Was two of Jim's, yours, and my couch. Okay, she's like, "Here, don't ask me. Okay, just take these. You're going to keep asking for the books. Just take them for now." So, um, how did you come about deciding to want to write about it?
God, I don't even know. Um, it just kind of happened organically where I thought, okay, I have a story that's interesting and let's kind of get it out there. That was really the first time I had put words on paper to talk about the accident that my dad was in, to talk about everything that went on with Murray. Um, I'm happy I wrote it because that was the impetus for everything that happened after it. Because I became more comfortable to talk about the things I'd gone through and the things that had happened to me.
God bless you.
Excuse me.
Okay, I just put myself off when it's happening.
um, but it really opened up doors for me to feel comfortable talking about it. I didn't I didn't understand. I didn't anticipate people reacting the way they did to the book. Um, I wrote that in 2012. It came out in 2013. So really, I'd only been investigating the paranormal for 4 years. So it was a little bit presumptuous to think that people cared enough to read a book about my experiences. But I wanted to get the stuff out there about Chris, the case that we did in Chilton. I wanted to talk about Murray, and then also, the stuff that had happened with my dad. And um, I worked on that book for a while. I just kind of pecked away at it, and it was actually a conversation with John Tenney that I had in Petoskey, Michigan, where I just kind of looked at him and I said, I'm to a point now with the book where I have writer's block. I can't figure out where the story goes. And I'll never forget it. John looked at me and he said, "It's because the story's not finished.
Mm-hmm.
Your story's not done." I got home that weekend and I had the next week off. I had vacation the next week. And I got home that weekend and I tossed everything that I had written. And I wrote that book in a week. And a lot of people would read that book and say, "Yes, I can see how you wrote that in a week." But that was how that book happened, and I didn't know what to expect from it. And I self-published it, probably sold a few hundred copies. Um, but yeah, I mean, I knew that I was going to be doing events, and I knew that there should be,
Something on the table.
something on the table. Um, so Potographs, I think, came first, and then the book came after. Um, but yeah, it just and then 3 years later, so much had happened that I was like, okay, let's update, let's
Part
add
two.
some stuff. And right now, I'm working on the Murray book. I'm going to write it from his point of view, his story, and that one's taken a while because it's difficult for me to write. It's I get a few pages into it and then I just got to stop because it's I don't know. I guess in my mind it's kind of final once that book comes out, and right now,
Well, you've been doing this long enough to know that's not final.
yeah. But sometimes my mind still is an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing to understand. Folks that go through depression and folks that have suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
that never truly goes away. I
Nope.
mean, that follows you around for the rest of your life. So there are days that I wake up and my brain hates me. Um, I mentioned this when I did an event in Missouri. Every time I speak at an event, there's a little voice in my head that says nobody cares about what you have to say. Every single event. So I'm still fighting with my brain. I can recognize the signs a little bit better these days. Um, so I win those battles. And plus, I made my boy a promise. So there's no chance that anything like that's going to happen. But yeah, you struggle. And the reason that I keep talking about it is because there's folks that need to hear it. There's people that come to that event and they're not expecting to get that message, but when they get it, it resonates with them and it means something. So if I can change one person's life, I'll keep telling the story.
When you do presentations, do you play any evidence or anything like that that you pick up at any of your investigations?
I have, um, if I'm new to the area, I will. If I've spoken at an event for a few times, then I kind of just concentrate on let's make them laugh, and then we'll tell them Murray's story. We'll make them cry, and then hopefully they come back to the table. They get themselves a sweatshirt or a T-shirt, and we can raise some money for the animals. Um, I really kind of play it by ear and kind of read the crowd. We've got some amazing evidence, but I've never been one that really is hung up on that either. You know, as long as we leave the home and the person or the family feels better than when we got there, that's a win to me.
How many homes or have you walked into? See, today with television, people know the keywords. My children can't sleep in their bedroom.
Yeah.
They're afraid to be in their own home. I mean, come on, I can go on and on. And Jen doesn't even take the calls anymore because they want the psychic medium right away. So guess who ends up with all the telephone calls now? And sometimes you're starting to hear, oh God, not again. It's like, do you want me to write the rest of your story? Because I can write out what else you're going to tell me, but you can't. I don't. You can't just write them off.
No.
We do a lot of preliminary investigations just to make sure that they deserve to be written off.
Yeah. From where I started and feeling like I wasn't worth the time for those other teams, it's important to me that we help no matter what it is. There's been plenty of investigations that we went into knowing there's nothing there and went through with the investigation because there is a way that we can help these people. That doesn't mean that everybody loves us because some people don't like to be told you don't have a ghost. But I think it's always important to hear their story and give them the benefit of the doubt and go in there and help them, however you can. There was two cases that we have not done, and in both instances during the phone interview, they reminded us that they had valuables and they would be following us throughout the home. And I was respectful, but I said, if you can't trust me to not steal from you, then I don't think we have enough trust for me to help you with this problem either. So we politely declined those cases. But otherwise, I mean, it's going to be 15 years on January 7th that we've been doing this. And, I talk about 300 plus cases. A lot of those places are 2, 3, 4 visits. So, I mean, a healthy a healthy estimate, we've probably helped between 100 and 125 families. And, I like to think we made a difference.
I know a couple of years ago, there was a time where Jen and I had to fight to get a few weeks vacation because we were like almost every weekend we were at someone else's home
Yep.
doing an investigation. Now that slowed down a little, especially with COVID. That slowed down a little, but I mean you're right. I'm almost afraid sometimes that we become the laughing stock because, like you say, sometimes there's respect, sometimes there's not. And we've had this poor old woman contact us. Somebody was stealing her underwear out of her underwear drawer, and she went to the police about it. And the policeman, I don't know who the cop is. I'd love to find him, just because he gave me a good laugh for about a year. Told him, well, here, I'm going to give you a phone number of a paranormal team. Okay, contact them and they can set up cameras on your underwear and watch. No, I have to admit, I got a really honest laugh out of that. Um, I don't like being deceived. I guess that's still the New Yorker in me.
Yeah.
That, if you bring me out, I mean, I want to help you if you need help. I'll go the 9 yards for you. But when we get there and your stories start to change through the night, and then one person actually wanted us to leave our that we had already exposed as being frauds, wanted us to leave all our equipment there for the next couple of nights so that they could use our equipment. And it's like, no. I think we're finished tonight. Thank you very much. But I get it. It's very important for you said it earlier when you reached out for help the very first time, nobody called you back.
Yeah.
To me, if you want to look at the things that, pardon my language, that really piss me off, is that when you contact the group and they don't even bother contacting you, and or when they finish their investigation, the homeowner never hears from them again.
Yeah.
They went in, they did their investigation and left, and never went back and got back with the people again. I mean, I've had in the past 10 years probably about 30 or 40 cases of that, where they've even tried to call them and nobody will answer them.
Yeah. They, one of the things that nobody tells you when you start a team is that a lot of times you end up being like family to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And like the case that ended up on Paranormal Witness, I'm still friends with those folks to this day. I mean, I've watched their children grow up. It makes me feel incredibly old. But the kids that we went in to help, are not now out of the house. The kid that I got a text message about 2 days after our investigation saying he slept through the night in his own bed. That kid's got his own place now in his own life. So it makes you at least for me, the field has made me care about something other than myself. And Murray gets a lot of credit for that too. I mean, I've never loved anything in my life as much as I love him. And that's probably why my marriage failed, because I reminded my wife of that all the time. That I would never love her as much as I would love Murray. So, yay me.
Sorry, honey, but I love my dog more than I love you.
Yeah. So, but it's the truth.
No, I
You know,
know.
like
I,
how do you?
I made just jest of that, but I
Yeah,
can just see from her head what she
yeah.
was thinking. Yeah,
How do you? I mean, how do you repay somebody that saved your life? I mean,
and
that's what I've struggled with for 15 years now. How do you do that?
there is no way. I wasn't didn't have someone that stopped me. It was in the ER that happened. Um, but yeah, there is no way to repay anyone that can actually stop you from going down that road. And again, and so I want to say it again, and I'll even put it on the page here under the Yahoo post there of numbers and stuff to contact if you are having an issue. You know, understand that if you're having those thoughts, you might not be able to control those thoughts. You might think you can, but you might not be able to. And don't wait until it's too late.
Yeah.
You need to seek advice now. I don't want to say help. People are afraid of the word help, but speak to somebody about it now. So, how did you become a wrestling fan? I mean,
Uh,
I've been following your page for years.
that is that's something goes back to my early childhood. Um, Life wasn't always good when I was growing up. There was a period in there where I had a stepfather who beat my mother, who emotionally abused my mother. He wasn't very good to me. And on weekends, on Saturday morning, that was my escape. I would get up and watch Superstars and and just slip into that world for an hour. And really, it was my escape from reality. And it just kind of stuck with me. It's always been my time where I can just, you know, zone out and enjoy the show. I'm not a big movie guy, which is weird because my friends will get mad because I've been in 3 movies, but I don't really watch movies.
I mean, like Scott would get upset.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch those movies anyway unless I was. But like that was just always my escape. and it followed me into my teens, my early adulthood, and it's just something that I just thoroughly enjoy. And people always say, "Well, that stuff is fake." Well, yes, it is scripted, but so is every show that you watch on TV.
Well,
Why
I'm going to go a
are we
step
not mad
further.
about those shows?
Do you remember Captain Lou Albano?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I knew Captain Lou.
Oh, wow.
His his nephew was a chiropractor I worked for in Connecticut, and he used to come in for adjustments.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about someone who's had so many operations and stuff because whereas it may be fake, or scripted,
Hmm.
they're still doing some of that
Well,
stuff.
yeah, it's very athletic,
Uh huh.
especially these days. My God, the things they put their bodies through.
Well, I used to have to sit and talk to Lou while his nephew Lou was adjusting him to keep his mind off the pain he was feeling every time he got adjusted. So we actually became like really good. It was right after he was dealing with Cindy Lauper
Oh,
when he was doing those videos with Cindy Lauper and stuff. And really, really nice guy. But he would sit and tell us stories for hours at a time,
huh.
about wrestling. You would have loved some of the stories that he told us back then.
I mean, I've been pretty blessed. I have really good friends in town that run a wrestling organization here in Oshkosh. I don't know if you've heard of Hornswoggle.
Yes.
He lives in Oshkosh, grew up in
Okay.
Oshkosh, and he runs ACW Wrestling right here. And they do shows about every month. And Josh Weimer, one of the owners, I've become really good friends with him. I've gotten to golf with Hornswoggle and Josh, and get to go to a lot of the shows. And the guys know us now. Todd and I walk in, we get handshakes and hugs from everybody. They bring in folks from that used to be in the WWE for their shows, and we get to meet those folks too. And I'm just I'm enjoying every minute. I'm still a 47-year-old kid, so at heart I'm a kid, and I love that stuff. I know it's not for everybody, but to me it was an escape. It's still an escape because quite honestly, there's still things in my life that stress me out, and sometimes I just need to zone out for a couple hours.
Hey, Friday, I'm still going to be a 64-year-old kid. Okay. Just as long as I don't go to diapers, because I guess that's supposed to be next. So, okay. So, what is 2023? I was at 2013. What does 2023 hold for Tim?
Things have blown up for me. Um, Try not to get emotional about it. Um, when I look in the mirror, I still see a kid from Wisconsin, small town kid. Um, but I've got I think I've got 10 events already lined up.
Cool.
I'm working on a project right now that I can't talk about. um, and I just started working with Kathy Hahn. She's been representing me and kind of doing the management duties now and taking some pressure off of me. So she's doing some fantastic things for me and getting things set up and taking a lot of the pressure away. Yeah, the 2023 is looking really good. I've got a couple of Plotographs exclusive events in March. We'll be in Ann Arbor, headlined by John Zaffis and Dustin Perry. And then March 18th, we're in Wisconsin in Pembine, headlined by Shane Pittman and Scott Tepperman. So those are the two events that I've got right now that are in the planning stages. Still working on some stuff for the middle of the summer and maybe a possible Plotographs event later in the year. And then, speaking at, a handful of other events. So, as long as the people need us to do residential cases, we'll still be doing that too. So we're busy, but it's a labor of love. And if I ever lose my love for paranormal investigation, especially on the residential side, then it's probably time for me to be done. But
Well,
right now,
let's
I'm
end up
enjoying
with that. Tell the people about what your contact area is for Fox Cities Paranormal and how to get in touch with you.
You can go to foxcitiesparanormalteam.com or you can email us fcpt.wi@gmail. Basically anywhere in Wisconsin and we'll go to places in Minnesota, Illinois, and Michigan too. So if it's serious enough and they need our help bad enough, I can't see turning anybody away. So that's kind of where we are. I'll be honest with you. The investigations that we do are like 4 hours away from home. That's a long drive home. It's, you get mighty tired after that. We had a couple of those in the summer, and it's up to the whole team to keep Tim awake while he's driving. But I mean, it's just the opportunity to be able
Do
to
you end
help.
up being the driver too?
What's that?
Do you end up being the driver also?
I am a control freak. I've always been that way. I drive everywhere. I watch all of the video. I do divvy up the audio, but I watch all the video. I drive everywhere. All the equipment has been bought by me, so it's all at my house. So anytime we have a case, I just throw the equipment in the car and we go. Like I joke with Todd all the time. Like he's the only one that can come to me and go, "Hey Tim, we gotta think of a different way to do this," because he's the one that his opinion is the one that I respect the most. So, it's like I said, we both love it, and to be quite honest, this field has given us so much. I kind of feel like I was cheating myself if we stopped.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time for being with us today. I'm really glad you came back because this is really, really, it's a story I wanted to do. I was, as you saw, all gung ho to do it last Thursday. And then I sat here with my mouth gaped open every time that I hit that stream button and kept getting that error. And it took them actually to 9 o'clock that night,
Huh.
another hour to fix that stream. Everybody was out. And it was like, we'll talk to them around billing time next year. See if there's some kind of credits for that. I use
Yeah.
them 4 times a month. Okay, it should be a 25% credit on there. But go out to Fox Cities Paranormal. If you haven't, I mean, go hit Amazon. You can look for the books. There'll be a link on our website where they can click on and go right to Amazon to purchase the book too. So they'll be able to get it that way. And as I said, now it's not really a promotion now for Keith, but last week I would have said he's our guest next week. But just so if anybody's listening, we are doing another show this Thursday night, which is 2 nights from now, with Keith. And with Keith, you never know what's going to come up with Keith. If anyone I spent time with him recently at NonCon in Pottstown. We were sitting right next to each other, and the stuff that was going on there was unbelievable between the two of us. So we should have a lot of fun. And if you're out at any of these Paracons, look for Tim. He's probably going to be at some of them. You could probably does Fox Cities have a list of where you're going to be?
No, a lot of that's going to be on Potographs. It's not on there yet, but
Okay.
I'll be in Michigan in April. I know I'm at Michigan Paracon in August, and then Fort Wayne Paracon in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the
Hmm.
last weekend in September are three that are off the top of my head I can remember. But those will all be listed on Potographs real soon.
I'm sure we're going to be one of the same ones coming up. Jen's been booking one after another now, so it should be nice to be one of them. Tim, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Don't go anywhere. So we'll talk to you when the show's over here. But everyone that joined us, thanks for joining in, and hope to see you on Thursday night.